so very much.
Oh, thank you.
Well, good evening. Good evening. First, I'd like to thank Queen Blessing and the Commission on the Status of Women for inviting me here. It certainly is my honor to be here with you this evening. We do have an opportunity to discuss some very pertinent issues. And the fact that we are still talking about gender parity and gender equality is a great segue as to why we are here this evening. Wouldn't this be a wonderful world when we get to a point where we no longer have to address gender equity and gender parity? But since we're not quite there yet, I've been asked to talk about violence against women in politics. Now, I am a woman in politics. I serve in Georgia in the House of Representatives. I'm entering into my 4th legislative session, which goes into my And I guess that when I run for office or ran for office, I did not see myself as a woman running for office. I saw myself as a person aspiring to serve in a political arena. And yet the world continues to see me as a woman, which brings me here today. So I want to just say that the Violence Against Women in Politics movement recognizes the unfair disenfranchisement of women as policymakers across the world. Since and before women's suffrage, women in politics have suffered grave consequences for exercising our rights and holding political power. What am I saying? Violence against women in politics takes on new challenges with psychological, physical, and sexual spectrums. The social media, the worldwide internet, the television has added to new subversive tactics to harass, intimidate, and warn women, both who wish to run for office, that is something that they really need to think about before engaging in. You see, violence against women is not just violence against women with politics. Violence against women is a civil rights issue. It's a harassment issue. And it could be considered a terrorist issue. What am I saying? I'm talking about voter suppression. As you watched, I come from Georgia, and we were all over the worldwide news. And we continue to fight against the voter suppression that was engaged in Georgia, not just against women, but as some of you may know, we had a woman running for the highest office in Georgia. Voter intimidation brings on new challenges. What is voter intimidation? What does voter intimidation look like? Well, it could look like someone just challenging me to run. Why am I, a woman, seeking to run for office? Well, I could be intimidated by that. Someone would say, what do you hope to gain by serving in the House of Legislature? Someone could say, why are you not at home taking care of your family? Someone could say, aren't you afraid to stand up and let your voice be heard on the floor of the House of Representatives? All of that could be viewed as voter intimidation. And I dare not be intimidated, and I support women in their right to run. Let's talk about voting rights just for a moment. Voting continues to have barriers, particularly against women who work all day and have to go home to take care of a household. Well, let's look at the hours that are extended for folks to get out and vote. Saturday voting, early voting now is something that we can look forward to. But I dare say that there still are opportunities for us to expand abilities to get out to vote. Lack of convenient voting times and lack of convenient voting locations continue to serve us and work against us. We know that evidence proves that when women are at the table, women get things done. Yes. Do I have anybody in here that agrees with me? Yeah. And when we have women policymakers, we see that there are more laws enacted to serve women, children, and families than when women are not at the table. We also see that there's evidence that women can come to the table and serve more so, and get things done. There's evidence and there are books that have been written about what happens when women come to the table of power. And from a policy perspective, when women are at the table, there's more diversity. There are more opportunities for participation. And so there continue to be disparities among women based on race, religion, ethnicity, and sexual identification. Of lately, sexual misconduct has risen to the forefront of just about any type of gender engagement in the workplace. And that also happens under the Gold Dome or under our state capitol. There continues to be a hush effect that while women can endure violence and crime perpetrated against us, that because we're women, we're supposed to just smile, grin, and bear it, thinking that we're happy to be at the table. Well, I don't have much more time, but I do want to say that violence against women continues, and yet there continues to be a rise against it. We will continue to fight for women, work for women, and happens at the policy table. We will continue to make laws that against hate crimes, and if we bow for a moment of silence against the hate crime that was perpetrated today, just because we're different. Just because we're different. So what are some of the solutions to violence against women in politics? We have to make a change. It may be the women who stand up to more progressive ways to alleviate and eliminate violence against women in politics, but just earlier we had a room full of men that said and stood up to say that they would stand with women to help fight this continued discrimination. More research and data gathering needs to be taken, not just for hate crimes. And some of you from Georgia, I will say that I just sponsored a piece of hate crime legislation in Georgia. It passed the House, and yet now it's before the Senate. Amen. So we need more research and more data to capture the evidence that these crimes do exist. And as a result of that, the more legislation can be developed that will punish people who violate those rights. National, state, and local lawmakers must provide policies and laws that deters violence and or punishes civil rights violations in voting rights, voter engagement, voter empowerment, and most of all, voter protection. For women who seek elected office. And finally, I'm going to say when women vote for other women, women win. We saw that in our recent national elections here in the United States, where now we have 127 women who serve in the United States Congress, both Senate and House of Representatives. And we have diversity like we've never seen before. There are 22 Black African Americans, there are 13 Latinos, 8 Asian American Pacific Islanders, 2 Native Americans, 1 Middle Eastern North African, and 1 multiracial. And I think that as we continue to promote and encourage other women to run, we will continue to see a greater world, a greater state, and a greater country. So I stand here today as I take my seat, stating that violence against women who seek elected office is real, and that it begins with those who wish to do something to eradicate it, and I do believe it can be done. Thank you.